I think my experience is that people tend to not want to talk about death. It's, as one might say, not an acceptable subject for drawing room conversation. I think it needs to be an acceptable subject for drawing room conversation or an after dinner conversation. If it's not, then when we get to the point where we have to deal with death, our own death or somebody else's death, then we just don't have the capacity. We don't have the narrative within ourselves.
And often I find you're more trying to make other people feel comfortable talking about it. Like people often ask me why I moved to Canberra, and I'll tell them why. And then people get very like, oh, I'm so sorry to have asked, and very uncomfortable about it. And you sort of have to help them through the conversation. People don't know how to speak about death.
Cancer tends to be not one story, but a series of stories. And her first cancer was a straightforward bowel cancer. It was operated on successfully, and we had every expectation she'd be okay. But it recurred.
Well, I think in the beginning we cried. And then Doug he was very determined, and he thought that he would just beat it. And so he said that he would do everything that he could. So it was a positive conversations that we would have had, in so much as we were hoping that with more chemo and everything that it would prolong his life.
We didn't really start talking about things right then because we were both very shell-shocked. I think we just walked out the doctors and just went, what just happened? So then after we absorbed the fact that she'd had this diagnosis, we talked about what do we do. It was waiting for specialist appointments, biopsies, and then and I just said, well, I'll be there whenever you need me to be.
I think there were some positives in the experience because we were able to talk to each other and talk as a family. And I gather that some other people don't go through it that way. And I think the lesson, probably the message I take for it is death is going to happen. And you prepare for it the best way you can.
As long as you have it in some time thought of where you wanted to be and what you wanted done and spoke to your family, then it's in place. And so whatever happens with you then in your sickness or whatever happens to you, they know already. And it's never been a great problem. We've just all sat down and discussed it and probably laughed at some of the things that we said we wanted and because I think at times you can't always be sad and crying. I think you have to laugh and you have to remember the good times and the funny things and all that.
Now I'm going to, when it's my turn and I'm facing that, I'm going to speak openly, and I'm not going to be scared to cry. I'm not going to be scared it's going to make my children cry. Because I want to have those conversations with them. I want them to know that it's going to be okay, and I want their grief to start with me so I can hug them when they're starting their grieving process. Because you start your grieving process before the person dies. I know I did with Mum. But I want to be able to be there to comfort my children when we talk about me dying, and to give them a hug, and just to be way more open about it all. I think that's what I've learned the most, I think.
But there's something about living and owning and being enriched by that sadness. that needs to be treasured. And if you can't talk about it, it's hard to do that.